Hey folks, today we're visiting the movies that somehow made millions, while forgetting how logic works.
Hollywood loves plot twists, just not the ones that accidentally destroy their own storylines. 1. Jurassic Park, the dino that forgot how to open doors. Remember the terrifying moment when a raptor figured out how to use a door handle? Genius, right? Except that same species later forgets how to open a fence gate. In one scene, these clever predators outsmart human engineers. In the next, they're baffled by a piece of metal mesh. Either evolution moves backward within 20 minutes, or Spielberg's dinosaurs just needed tech support. And if these things are so intelligent, why are they still chasing jeeps instead of just waiting at the exit? The whole theme park of cloned monsters idea was ambitious, but apparently, quality control didn't extend to basic motor skills. Jurassic Park gave us science fiction, wonder, and a deep distrust of door handles. But mostly, it proved that even genetically engineered dinosaurs can't outsmart lazy screenwriting. 2. The Dark Knight Rises, the magical recovery of Batman's spine. Let's talk about Gotham's worst chiropractor. Bane breaks Batman's back, snaps it clean in half like a breadstick. Next thing we know, Bruce Wayne's doing prison push-ups, hanging from a rope, and boom, he's fine. No surgery, no therapy, not even an ice pack. Just a quick motivational speech from a guy in a cave. It's like the movie confused spinal fracture with bad posture. And then, somehow, our fully healed billionaire ninja climbs out of a foreign pit and makes it back to Gotham with no money, no passport, and no Uber. Either Bruce secretly owns an international teleportation service, or Gotham's subway system has gotten way out of hand. It's inspiring, sure, but mostly in the "my back pain suddenly feels less serious" kind of way. 3. Home Alone, the case of the missing police department. Ah yes, the beloved holiday classic where a small child is accidentally abandoned, defends his home with war crimes, and somehow no one calls CPS. Kevin McAllister is left behind, the phone lines are down, and the Chicago police apparently take a 2-week vacation. His mom, instead of contacting literally anyone in law enforcement, barters her jewelry for a seat on a cargo van. Meanwhile, the burglars spend days attacking the same house despite having dozens of other, less booby-trapped options. It's the only Christmas movie that doubles as a study in collective incompetence. We cheer for Kevin's creativity, sure, but deep down, we all know the real villain isn't the wet bandits. It's Illinois' emergency response system. 4. Titanic, the door that could have saved 2 people, and the plot. Let's address the cold, soggy elephant in the room, the door. Not a raft, not a panel. A literal wooden door that could have easily fit both Jack and Rose if they'd done some basic geometry. Scientists have tested it. Mythbusters confirmed it. Every logical human since 1997 has screamed it. Yet Rose floats comfortably while Jack becomes an ice sculpture. Even worse, before he sinks, she promises she'll never let go. Then immediately, let's go. It's the cinematic equivalent of "I love you," followed by "good luck with that." James Cameron insists the buoyancy couldn't handle 2 people. But apparently, it could handle the emotional trauma of an entire generation yelling at the screen for 25 years. Titanic wasn't just a love story, it was a physics test that humanity failed. 5. Star Wars, the rise of Skywalker, Palpatine's return, the galaxy's worst HR decision. The Emperor's back. Somehow. No explanation, no logic, just dark science, cloning, secrets only the Sith knew. Translation: we had no idea how to end this trilogy. He fell down a reactor shaft, exploded, and yet here he is, alive and attached to a crane like a Sith chandelier. Apparently, death in Star Wars is less permanent than a Disney Plus subscription. Worse, his entire Final Order fleet was hidden on a planet with GPS coordinates that required a magic triangle to find. Meanwhile, every ship has a Death Star cannon, but not one of them can fly without a Wi-Fi signal from base. Palpatine's comeback wasn't a twist. It was a spreadsheet error that got promoted to plot. The Force works in mysterious ways, mainly by covering for bad writing. 6. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Surviving the Fridge, or How to Outrun Nuclear Physics. Indiana Jones survives an atomic blast by hiding inside a lead-lined refrigerator. Let that sink in. Forget snakes, The real terror is the idea that a man was launched miles into the air by a nuclear explosion and walked away with perfect hair. Radiation? Broken bones? Nah, just a dusty suit and mild confusion. Even the fridge's hinges didn't melt. Apparently, GE built apocalypse-proof appliances back in the 50s. The entire scene plays out like a fever dream written by someone who fell asleep watching Mythbusters and Looney Tunes at the same time. It was meant to be thrilling, but it became the cinematic shorthand for "we gave up on realism." The only thing more absurd than surviving a nuke in a fridge is someone at the studio saying, "Yeah, that feels plausible." 7. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the time turner that solves everything except the plot. So Hermione has a time machine. She uses it to take extra classes and save one bird. One hippogriff. Meanwhile, an entire series of murders, wars, and child endangerment plays out, while everyone forgets this world-changing gadget exists. You're telling me Dumbledore, a literal genius wizard, never thought, "Hey, maybe let's rewind a few hours and stop Voldemort's murder spree"? Nope. The time turner disappears conveniently after it fixes one subplot and reappears only when it's narratively convenient. It's the Swiss Army knife of lazy storytelling. Too powerful to exist, too useful to ignore. In the end, Hermione used a time machine to make her academic schedule work. Honestly, that's the most British solution ever, using a god-tier magical relic for better attendance. 8. The Matrix Reloaded, the architect who explains nothing. Neo meets the architect, who delivers a 10-minute monologue of words that sound intelligent but mean absolutely nothing. Vis-a-vis ergo, concordantly. It's like a TED Talk given by a malfunctioning thesaurus. The supposed big reveal is that the Matrix has been rebooted multiple times, which raises more questions than it answers. Why does the architect keep remaking a simulation that always ends in chaos? Why is Neo special if he's just another iteration? And why is the guy dressed like Colonel Sanders running a digital prison? The scene was supposed to deepen the lore, but instead turned the franchise into a philosophy exam written during a caffeine overdose. When Neo left that room, nobody, including him, knew what just happened. The only thing we learned? Sometimes the ultimate glitch in the Matrix is the script itself. 9. Back to the Future, the vanishing siblings and the time travel math that doesn't add up. We all love Marty McFly, but let's be real. Back to the Future handles time travel like a drunk scientist with a chalkboard. Marty changes one moment in 1955, and suddenly his siblings start fading from a photo in real time. Apparently, time isn't linear. It's a live Photoshop edit. If the future is being rewritten second by second, how is Marty even still there to watch himself disappear? Shouldn't he poof out the instant he changes anything? But nope, the movie decides to give time this weird slow delete feature, like it's running on Windows 95. Then there's the whole paradox of his parents naming their son after the guy who almost broke them up. Imagine explaining that at dinner. "Yes, dear, we named you after that random teenager who made your mom swoon." Time travel comedy, sure. Logic? Nowhere to be found. 10. Frozen. The magical logic of melting and unmelting Disney made kids everywhere sing "Let It Go." But maybe they should have called it "Let It Make Sense." Elsa accidentally freezes an entire kingdom. Understandable. Emotional ice powers, trauma, fine. But then Anna turns to literal stone after getting frozen in the heart, and all it takes to thaw her is an act of true love. So wait, the entire nation of Arendelle needed global warming, but her sister just needed a hug? Meanwhile, Elsa learns she can control everything by simply feeling love, which makes you wonder what she was doing for the first 90 minutes. Feeling mild indifference? Oh, and that talking snowman Olaf, created by Elsa's power, somehow doesn't melt in summer. Is he powered by affection? Magic permafrost? The script never says. In short, the movie teaches that love conquers all, except physics, internal logic, and thermodynamics. 11. Avengers Endgame. The time travel rules that break themselves. Endgame tried to outsmart time travel, then tripped over its own plot. The Avengers claim you can't change the past, that every jump creates a new branch of reality. Cool concept. Until Captain America returns the Infinity Stones and magically ends up back in this timeline, now old and married. So, the past did change? Or it didn't? Or maybe the writers just hit shuffle on quantum theory. Even the Hulk, now inexplicably a chill green life coach, gives an entire lecture about paradoxes that contradicts itself 3 sentences in. And don't even get me started on Thanos time-warping himself from 2014 to 2023. If that version dies, shouldn't the entire Infinity War vanish too? The movie ends with emotional closure, sure, but also a physics migraine. Somewhere, Einstein's ghost is screaming into a pillow. 12. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, the skeleton logic nobody can explain. Cursed pirates turn into skeletons under moonlight. Terrifying, iconic, but scientifically questionable even for a movie with a monkey named Jack. When the moon hits, they're skeletal. When it doesn't, they're fine. Simple, right? Except the moonlight conveniently knows when the plot needs a dramatic reveal. Sometimes it lights the whole ocean. Sometimes it behaves like a stage spotlight with union hours. And let's not forget, they can walk, talk, and drink rum even though they have no organs. Where's the rum going? Into the void? The curse apparently removes blood but leaves hangovers intact. Also, when they return the cursed gold, the spell instantly ends. Mid-battle, mid-sword swing, with 0 delay. It's like magic has a Wi-Fi connection. Pirates nailed adventure, but its internal logic sinks faster than the Black Pearl in a thunderstorm. 13. The Lion King, The Circle of Life. That's actually a triangle. Disney calls it the Circle of Life, but it's more of a broken geometry lesson. Lions rule everything, sure, but who's populating the savannah when half of them get eaten during that inspirational opening song? Mufasa lectures about balance while devouring half his subjects. Then when Scar takes over, the land turns into a wasteland within months, because apparently one lion's mood controls the entire ecosystem. Did the rain clouds just boycott evil leadership? Also, where are all the other male lions? It's either a bachelor's club or one extremely complicated family tree. And let's not skip the weird timeline. Simba grows up in exile, returns fully adult, and everyone else looks the same age. Apparently, meerkats and warthogs are immortal. It's the happiest tragedy in history, a monarchy run on meteorology and selective aging. 14. Spider-Man 3, the symbiote that knows jazz. Ah yes, Spider-Man 3, the film that taught us alien parasites can apparently major in interpretive dance. The symbiote lands from outer space, attaches to Peter Parker, and instead of turning him into an unstoppable menace, gives him an emo haircut and the confidence of a guy who just bought his first leather jacket. Suddenly, this brilliant scientist forgets how personality disorders work and starts finger-gunning random women in the street like he's auditioning for Grease 2. Meanwhile, the black suit makes him stronger, but doesn't seem to affect his sense of rhythm, because when the world needed saving, Peter went to a jazz club to bully his ex. The whole film treats evil like it's a temporary fashion choice, complete with eyeliner and dance choreography. The alien symbiote could have conquered Earth, but instead, it learned swing dancing and jealousy. Truly, the galaxy's dumbest costume party. 15. The Notebook, the memory loss that conveniently waits for the credits romance. Beautiful. Logic? Missing in action. The Notebook gave us one of cinema's most emotional love stories, and one of its most medically confused endings. The film reveals that elderly Allie suffers from dementia so severe she doesn't remember her husband, Noah. Yet somehow, by the magic of Nicholas Sparks' plot convenience, she recalls their entire history whenever he reads her diary. That's not how Alzheimer's works. That's how selective storytelling works. Even better, after one night of miraculous lucidity, she and Noah both die peacefully at the same time, like synchronized heartbreak swimmers. Romantic? Sure. Plausible? About as much as surviving a nuke in a refrigerator. The film pretends true love can overcome neurological decay, but really, it just teaches that memory loss, like everything else in Hollywood, waits politely until the dramatic music hits. 16. The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. The franchise that forgot physics and aging. Tokyo Drift, the entry that treated science like a speed bump. Sean Boswell, the high school teenager, is played by a 24-year-old who looks 35 and drives like he's auditioning for a demolition derby. The cars drift up ramps, around skyscrapers, and probably through the laws of thermodynamics. Tires scream on concrete for 10 minutes straight without burning out, while the cops in downtown Tokyo apparently decided street racing isn't their jurisdiction. And And let's not forget Han, who dies dramatically in this film, only for the sequels to retroactively claim, actually, this happened years later. The timeline gets more tangled than a set of jumper cables. It's less a movie and more an alternate universe where gravity takes coffee breaks and continuity is optional. If you ever wondered what would happen if soap opera writers ran Top Gear, this was it. 17. Twilight, the vampire that shines like body glitter and skips school forever. Twilight gave us love, drama, and the most confusing version of immortality ever written. Edward Cullen is a 100-year-old vampire who keeps enrolling in high school like it's an eternal punishment from the guidance counselor. He has super speed, mind reading, and the power to sparkle like a disco ball, yet somehow his biggest concern is prom. Then there's the vegetarian vampire logic. He doesn't drink human blood, only animal blood, which apparently just makes his eyes change color and keeps his conscience spotless. And that sunlight? Instead of burning him, it turns him into a walking bottle of glitter lotion. Forget ancient curses or gothic horror. This dude belongs on the Sephora shelf. The movie tries to sell it as tragic romance, but it's really the story of a 100-year-old man sneaking into a teenager's bedroom to watch her sleep. Romantic? No. Creepy? Absolutely immortal. 18. Jurassic World, the park that learned nothing from the last 3 disasters. By the time Jurassic World rolled around, humanity had built 4 separate dinosaur parks, and not one lawyer, scientist, or intern said, maybe this is a bad idea. The new owners decide to genetically engineer a smarter, deadlier dinosaur to attract more tourists, because nothing boosts attendance like adding murder lizard to your zoo brochure. The Indominus Rex promptly escapes, kills everyone in sight, and somehow makes the board of directors act shocked. The entire film is a masterclass in corporate amnesia. Employees release velociraptors like it's Casual Friday, the security systems fail again, and the guy in charge of safety flies a helicopter into a pterosaur swarm. At this point, the real monster isn't genetic engineering, it's human resource management. The moral lesson? If you open a dino park and it goes wrong 4 times, you don't need better fences, you need therapy. 19. Frozen 2, the magical sequel that forgot its own rules. In Frozen 2, Elsa hears a mysterious voice calling her north. Great setup. Then the movie spends 2 hours trying to explain the world's least consistent magic system. Suddenly, there are elemental spirits, ancient forests, and a dam that somehow symbolizes colonial guilt. Cool ideas, none of which make sense together. Elsa dies, but not really. Anna saves her by destroying a dam, which floods the kingdom but somehow doesn't kill anyone. And Olaf, the talking snowman, disintegrates and then respawns with 0 explanation, like a frosty Jesus. The plot twists feel less like mythic prophecy and more like Disney's brainstorming session accidentally made it into the final cut. By the end, Elsa retires to live in the forest while Anna becomes queen because… sibling equality? The movie preaches balance, but delivers chaos, proving even billion-dollar animation can have the narrative consistency of melting snow. 20. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, the robots that can't decide what planet they're from. Michael Bay's Transformers sequel is what happens when explosions get top billing over logic. The Decepticons resurrect Megatron in an underwater surgery scene that requires one piece of the Allspark, even though that piece already revived another robot earlier. So, apparently robot afterlife rules depend on runtime. Then, there's the ancient Transformers who supposedly built the pyramids, which raises the question, why does no historian remember 10-story robots doing construction in broad daylight? Meanwhile, Optimus Prime dies, revives, dies again, and somehow keeps his paint job pristine through every battle. Humans survive city-flattening explosions by hiding behind cars, and the plot tries to explain everything with the matrix of leadership, which sounds like a self-help podcast. The entire movie is a 2-hour physics protest where continuity takes a coffee break between explosions. If logic were a transformer, Michael Bay blew it up in Act 1. 21. The Little Mermaid. The contract that wouldn't hold up in any court, Ariel trades her voice for legs in what is essentially a magical non-disclosure agreement written by a squid. The contract says she must get true love's kiss in 3 days or lose her soul, clearly drafted by someone who's never met a teenager. Ursula tricks her, sure, but here's the kicker. When King Triton takes her place, the contract suddenly becomes legally binding underwater, in ink, and enforced by eels. Who notarized this? Poseidon? Also, Ariel signs her name with flawless penmanship, despite having never seen a pen or paper in her life. The deal falls apart when Eric kills Ursula, and poof, all contracts are void. Apparently, murder is the ultimate cancellation clause. Disney sold it as romance, but it's really a cautionary tale about why you should always read the fine print before entering into maritime sorcery agreements. 22. Inception, the dream logic that forgot to wake up. Christopher Nolan built Inception on the idea that dreams have rules, layers, physics, and that one guy who won't stop explaining them. The movie tells us, if you die in the dream, you wake up, which makes sense, until it suddenly doesn't. Later, dying traps you in limbo, where apparently time moves slower than a DMV line. So which is it, Chris? Do we wake up, or do we need Leo DiCaprio's emotional breakdown to buy the ticket home? And speaking of Leo, Cobb's totem, that spinning top, is supposed to tell him if he's dreaming. Except it's not his totem, it was his wife's. So by the movie's own rules, it shouldn't work for him at all. By the end, the top keeps spinning, and we're left arguing about physics that don't even exist. Inception isn't a film about dreams. It's a 2-hour illusion proving that if you explain nonsense confidently enough, audiences will call it genius. 23. The Batman, the detective who forgets. GPS exists. They call him the world's greatest detective. Yet half of the Batman is just Bruce Wayne slowly realizing he doesn't own Google Maps. The Riddler leaves literal riddles, complete with ciphers and rat metaphors, and Batman spends 3 days decoding them like it's a crossword puzzle from hell. Meanwhile, every clue could have been solved faster by any true crime podcaster with Wi-Fi. He drives his Batmobile through walls, crashes into a highway chase, and somehow never thinks to, track the villain's phone. At one point, Alfred nearly dies opening a letter bomb, and Batman's response is to mope dramatically in the dark. If Gotham's crime rate is this bad, maybe what the city really needs isn't a vigilante detective, just better street lighting and a competent IT department. The movie is gritty, gorgeous, and unintentionally hilarious every time the genius forgets basic problem solving. 24. Interstellar, the space mission that forgot how time works. Interstellar wanted to be profound. It mostly became a $165 million dad joke about relativity. NASA sends astronauts to another galaxy using a wormhole that conveniently opens near Saturn, because space travel is always more believable with shortcuts. Once there, the crew lands on a planet where 1 hour equals 7 years. Great concept, except when you remember time dilation doesn't just affect one planet. It affects everything. Back on Earth, people age in real time, but somehow the math works only when the plot demands tears. Then there's the fifth-dimensional bookshelf, where Matthew McConaughey saves humanity by pushing books onto the floor to send Morse code to his daughter. That's not quantum mechanics, that's ghost parenting. Interstellar ends with love literally transcending space-time, which is romantic until you realize gravity, math, and common sense all died on the same planet. 25. The Wizard of Oz, the dream that accidentally kidnapped a dog. Dorothy wakes up from her Technicolor fever dream, hugs Aunt Em, and everyone acts like it was all just a bump on the head. Cute ending, until you remember she wasn't alone. Toto, her dog, was right there in Oz, running from flying monkeys and surviving a witch fireball or two. So, if it was all a dream, how did the dog know the characters? How did the house land on a witch with real shoes? And why does Dorothy wake up with that same pair of ruby slippers still missing? The movie ends like a fairy tale, but the logic collapses faster than a Kansas farmhouse in a tornado. Either Dorothy astral projected into a parallel world, or she had the most elaborate head injury in cinema history. And that "there's no place like home" moral? It only works if you ignore that home just dropped her into a lawsuit with a dead witch's family. 26. The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, Part 2, The Revolution That Forgot Basic Strategy. For a series about survival and rebellion, Mockingjay. Part 2 ends like a PowerPoint presentation that lost the last few slides. The grand revolution against the Capitol boils down to Katniss wandering through sewers, losing half her team, and somehow still ending up in the perfect position to shoot the villain. Except in a final twist of, wait, what? She kills President Coin instead, because apparently overthrowing dictators is a hobby now. The rest of the rebellion just accepts it. No trial, no chaos, just polite applause and fade to black. And don't get me started on the Capitol defenses, booby traps, firebombs, mutts, and yet one squad with good lighting and decent cardio makes it through. After 3 movies of political allegory, we end on a quiet farm scene where Katniss explains trauma to her toddler like she's narrating a therapy brochure. The Hunger Games started with fire and ended with nap time. 27, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the Eagles that could have ended the whole trilogy in 20 minutes. It's the ultimate cinematic question. If Middle-earth had giant flying eagles willing to help in the end, why didn't they just drop Frodo off at Mount Doom on day 1? Instead, we get 9 hours of hobbits walking, crying, and making extended eye contact with jewelry. The Fellowship crosses mountains, battles demons, and argues about snacks, all while an airborne Uber service exists just off-screen. Gandalf literally talks to the eagles, but apparently scheduling a ride wasn't on the table. Maybe they charged surge pricing during war, or maybe Tolkien just liked suffering. By the time the eagles finally appear, it feels less like salvation and more like cosmic trolling. They swoop in, save the day, and vanish like, you could have called sooner. The whole trilogy could have been a 30-minute short film titled The Lord of the Wings. And there you have it. 27 cinematic masterpieces that prove Hollywood can make billion-dollar budgets and still forget how doors, time, gravity, or logic work. But hey, who needs physics when you've got popcorn? So, which of these plot holes broke your brain the most? Drop it in the comments. And remember, never trust a movie that explains time travel with a whiteboard.